Earlier, in talking about 0 and 1, we used the electron as an example, a point with no volume at all. But the story of 2 and 3 belongs to a different kind of being, one whose single center splits into two, forming a symmetry, taking on volume as a spinning ellipsoid, bound to spacetime as it lives out its existence in the world. When we picture an electron circling a nucleus, we usually imagine a perfect circle. But the real orbit is a slightly flattened ellipse. And tracing that flattened path is never the electron's own choice. The force that bends its path comes from the nucleus at the center. The mass of the nucleus, and the field spreading out around it, pulls the electron in, and caught in that relationship, the electron is forced to trace an elliptical path it never asked for. And this single point we call the electron spins while wrapped in what we call an electron cloud, a cloud representing the probability of where the electron might be found. This cloud has no fixed shape, the way a solid object would. It's nothing more than a distribution of probability, so at low energy states, the s orbital, it's close to a sphere, but as angular momentum increases, the p, d, f orbitals, it just as easily reshapes itself into elongated, complex forms, dumbbells, donuts. Having no fixed form of its own, it changes shape exactly as easily as the conditions around it change. This is also why the cloud grows and shrinks. Release energy, and the cloud shrinks like melting snow, retreating to a narrower orbit. Absorb energy, and the cloud swells like a snowball rolling downhill, moving out to a wider orbit. But the instant its size changes, the cloud can no longer stay on the rail it was running along. It has to leap to a different rail, by exactly the amount it grew or shrank. And the path this cloud runs along is neither a straight line nor a simple, smooth circle. The path itself is a wave. Seen flat, it ripples like water. Seen in 3 dimensions, it follows a helical rail, like a coiled spring. If this winding orbit doesn't line up with an exact integer multiple of the wavelength, the mismatch isn't confined to one point where a crest meets a trough. The phase keeps drifting, little by little, all the way around the loop. By the time it completes one full circuit, the phase at the starting point no longer matches the phase at the end, and that mismatch accumulates around the entire orbit, so the wave never holds together consistently anywhere. Only when it's an exact integer multiple does the phase come back around and land exactly where it started, allowing the wave to exist as a stable standing wave, instead of erasing itself. Think of a train rail. If there's even the tiniest gap or bend anywhere along it, the train simply can't run on that rail at all. In the same way, where the electron can be was never up to the electron, it was already decided, in advance, by whether the wavelength lines up as an exact integer multiple or not. The nucleus that sets this electron in motion is not a perfect circle either. It, too, is a slightly flattened ellipse. A perfect circle has a single center point, but a spinning ellipse has 2 centers. And with those 2 centers comes volume, and with volume, the distinction between inside and outside. The essence of 2 isn't simple division, it's that the 2 halves sit precisely on a line of symmetry. Inside and outside, day and night, even life and death, these aren't just split apart, they face each other in exact symmetry. And this perfect symmetry isn't just coincidentally standing face to face, the complex plane shows us why. Multiply the imaginary unit I by itself, and you land exactly on its own opposite, -1. That opposite, sitting precisely across from the visible one, isn't simply there on its own. It only comes into being through the action of I, something invisible, multiplying itself. Which means, for anything visible to hold its single form on the outside, there has to be something on the inside forming a pair, multiplying with itself. This code of symmetry appears in the structure of life itself, too, in the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, in the left and right brain. To sustain a single visible body, a single unified awareness, 2 axes are constantly interlocking on the inside, paired together, canceling and completing each other. Whatever shows its face on the outside is yang, whatever supports it from within must wear the face of yin. If the sympathetic nervous system pushes the body to tense up and rise, the parasympathetic works from exactly the opposite side, easing the body down and letting it settle. If only one of the two existed, the body would keep tipping in that one direction until it eventually collapsed. Only when the two stand pulling taut against each other does the single visible rhythm, the heartbeat, the breath, stay stable. What looks like a single flow on the outside is, underneath, a balance created by two forces constantly pulling against each other. Whatever shows itself as one on the outside is always the result of some pair quietly multiplying on the inside. And to adapt to change and stimulus from the outside world, something is needed that keeps moving, constantly rebalancing itself through action and reaction. 2. Precisely paired and facing itself in symmetry, is powerful at locking into place once it's set, pulled taut and held still, but by itself, it can't move to respond to change. 3. On the other hand, always leaves one behind no matter how it pairs up, and that leftover one can move back and forth between one pair and another, responding without rest, holding the balance and the center. Geometry makes the reason plain. The minimum number of points needed to enclose a space is 3. With 1 point you can draw nothing, with 2, only a line. Only with 3 does a surface appear, a surface that can enclose a region. The instant 3 puts flesh on the frame that 2 raised, a knot is tied, the smallest unit able to hold energy in without letting it leak away, and what we call matter takes shape for the first time. This closure by 3 doesn't stay confined to abstract geometry. The most honest example is the proton. A proton isn't a single solid lump. Inside it are 2 up quarks and 1 down quark, exactly 3 quarks, held together, unwilling to let go of each other, by the strong force carrier particle called the gluon. The way these 3 quarks refuse to let go of one another is worth a closer look, too. Each quark carries one of 3 properties called color charge, commonly called red, green, and blue, and these 3 colors sit at positions exactly 120 degrees apart. With only 1 color, or even 2, they never cancel out. Some trace always shows on the outside. Only when all 3 are together, spaced exactly 120 degrees apart, do they cancel out completely, leaving no color showing on the outside, and giving us the whole, observable particle we perceive. It's because the nucleus has completed this knot of 3 on its own that it can finally hold an electron within its field and earn the name atom, a thing with its own force. This is the working of 3, the symmetry of inside and outside, of yin and yang paired together, responding ceaselessly to outside stimulus and change, holding its balance and its center. Why does it have to be 3? The answer lies in the difference between how odd and even numbers pair up. Even numbers pair off in 2s with nothing left over. 2 is 1 facing 1. 4 is 2 facing 2, neither side is ever left alone. Because every pair matches perfectly, an even number locks into place, pulled taut, frozen into symmetry. But no matter how an odd number tries to pair up, 1 is always left over. Once 3 pairs 1 with 1, the one that remains keeps shifting position, holding balance and center against outside stimulus. And it's exactly here, as this threefold balance is added to the frame that symmetry built, that a tight, closed knot forms at last, one that doesn't let its energy scatter. Look more closely at the place where this knot actually folds, and you'll see the shape was never going to be neat from the start. When the energy of a circling motion breaks free in one direction, it takes the shape of a falling droplet. The instant that droplet hits a wall blocking its path, if it had struck straight on, with no spin at all, the rebound would have simply bounced back like a mirror image, straight the way it came. A ball with no spin bounces straight back off a wall, like a mirror. But a ball with side spin bounces off at an angle, even hitting the exact same spot. That's because, in the brief instant the ball touches the wall, its surface is still turning, so the point where the force is applied and the point where the reaction pushes back no longer line up. The same thing happens to our spinning droplet, only far more intricately. The droplet approaches the wall still spiraling as it goes, and even in that brief instant of impact, the spin never stops. So the point of action and the point of reaction fail to line up exactly, and the mismatch between them remains, as a phase difference. That phase difference is the very thing that becomes the twist. The tip of the droplet, once sharp, gets pressed inward by this mismatched rebound, folding into a heart shape with two peaks. This is the first split. But the collision from this spinning impact doesn't end there. A phase difference, a mismatched rebound, remains between the energy coming in and the energy bouncing back out. Because that rebound carries this mismatch, the new heart forming on the far side of the wall isn't simply a mirror image of the first one, flipped over. It's a heart whose very direction has been twisted and reversed, facing the exact opposite way from the original. Without the spin, this kind of reversal would never have had any reason to happen. So now, with a wall between them, two hearts face each other, one pointing in the original direction, the other twisted to face the opposite way. The force pushing forward and the force bouncing back get twisted together and completely entangled, and the spot where they're locked, unable to budge, is exactly what becomes a node. Completing even a single knot takes three separate events: spinning, colliding, and reversing. When spinning energy shoots out in one direction and meets an outside barrier, the rebound folds it into the smallest, most stable form it can converge into. Spinning force shoots out straight, that force hits something and bounces back, and at the point of that collision a vertex folds into place, and if you keep repeating this process, what's always left, every time, is exactly three vertices. Two lines alone can never enclose themselves. Only when a third point steps in to complete a closed triangle does the energy stop scattering and hold its ground in one place. That's because 3 is the minimum unit required to form an enclosed space. This condition of closure isn't limited to matter. It shows up again in one of mathematics' strangest results, the Riemann Zeta Function, an equation tied to the deep, still unsolved mystery of prime numbers. This function carries its own built-in mirror symmetry around a single axis. One side is forced to match its opposite exactly, the same way I multiplying itself was forced to produce -1. The code of 2 repeats itself here. Move along that axis, and the function's value traces out a spiraling path. Most of the way along, that spiral swings past the center point and misses it. But at certain specific points, the spiral swings back around and lands exactly on center, closing the loop perfectly, the same way our droplet only folded into a heart at the one point where its mismatched rebound lined up exactly. Mathematicians call these exact points zeros. And remarkably, they don't stop at just one, moving further along that same axis, they keep appearing, again and again, not randomly, but only wherever this same condition, exact symmetry, exact closure, is met. Just as the electron never got to choose where it could exist, these points aren't chosen either. The condition of symmetry and closure decides, in advance, exactly where they fall. And this place of 3 repeats itself regardless of scale. Every time a growing thing runs into an energy barrier blocking its growth, a node is left behind at that spot. Just as bamboo ties off node after node as it grows upward, bone forms a node every time its forward-reaching growth meets a barrier. But the shape this node folds into isn't random, it follows the same sequence we just saw: spin, collision, reversal. So that same heart shape is etched into every single small joint in the bone. The way a joint swells out and narrows in the middle as it hardens is really this heart pattern, repeated and layered node after node. The human body carries 3 large nodes, formed where its growing force met 3 massive energy barriers. The same small heart pattern etched into each bone repeats itself once again, at the scale of the whole body, at these 3 great nodes. The chest node is the clearest of the 3. The curve traced by the whole rib cage, rounding inward at the center, then narrowing below into a heart-like outline, comes from this node. Both men and women carry this same node in the rib cage, so regardless of sex, the shape of the chest shares this heart form. The same pattern repeats in the head node. The contour of the face, The cheekbones swelling out near the temples, then drawing together toward the chin, is another heart shape, folded at the spot where a single growing force met the barrier of the skull. And the last is the third node, left behind near the genitals, low in the abdomen. At this final spot, the human body splits once more. The female womb and the male genitals are shaped as inverse mirror images of each other, inside turned to outside, and this isn't just a metaphor, it's a fact confirmed by actual embryology. In early fetal development, male and female both start from exactly the same primitive tissue. If that tissue grows outward, it becomes the male genitals. If it curls inward, it becomes the female womb and vagina. The same material, splitting into male or female depending only on whether it turns outward or inward. This is the symmetry of yin and yang, repeating itself once more at this final, great node. Evolution, in the end, is the trace left by something that has pushed its way through energy barriers, one after another. Those barriers don't stop at just one layer, they're stacked, like the skin of an onion. And every node marks exactly where one of those barriers once stood. The snail, tracing a Fibonacci spiral around its shell, is still stuck at only half of this heart pattern. It has the spin, but not yet the full reversal that comes from rebounding off a wall. The crab, one step further along, carries one complete, whole heart pattern etched across its entire shell, spin, collision, and reversal, all three events completed in full, once. And the human being goes further still, carrying three separate heart pattern nodes, one each at the head, the chest, and the genitals. Each barrier crossed completes one more heart, and how many hearts a body carries is exactly a measure of how much farther, through how many more layers of barrier, it has managed to push. 2 is the axis of symmetry that a single being cuts into itself, a symmetry that cannot exist without the quiet action taking place on the inside, and multiplied by itself, the two eyes producing that point of symmetry, -1. 3 is the balance and the centering that, in order to secure stability against the outside world, endlessly bites its own tail, claims its space, and finally gains substance. And so, this working of symmetry and balance, 2 and 3, shows the same pattern repeating again and again, from the smallest particles to living things, and from living things all the way to the structure of the most highly evolved being, the human body. The scale leaps by many orders of magnitude, from the atomic nucleus to the human body, and yet the rule that repeats inside it never wavers.